Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. In this episode, we are going to be looking at the power of our own voice, how to gain more voice power, and also things like shaming and separation of humanity and how that has affected our voice up till now. Hello, you glorious sensual being, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. I really hope that you're having a good day, and I really hope that you surround yourself with people who appreciate you. And I hope that you appreciate yourself as well, because that's so important. We need to be able to fill up our own cup as well. So appreciate yourself always is key. So today's topic is a very important one, and often one that's very overlooked, even in the circles that I run in as well. So today's topic is the power of our own voice in various different ways with this. So one of the things that we see quite a lot is the term speaking your truth. Speaking your truth. Personally, I don't know. There's something about that I don't like how it's like. I just don't resonate with that in that way. But and yet the power of my voice, I feel, is very important. Likewise, the power of your voice is very important. The reason why I'm unsure about it is because what is the truth? And I don't know, that opens up a big can of worms. I feel speaking your truth, in my eyes, I feel like it resonates with me better when I think of it as standing up for myself, setting boundaries, saying no, if I mean no instead of yes, things like that. That's how I feel like it is. Speaking your truth tells me there's something inside me that I need to tell everybody, that I need to unravel what it is. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Something about just the way that phrase is, I feel like it doesn't make me want to talk more or like use my voice. But to say things like setting boundaries, I'm like, yes, I am all for that. So that's where my love for this type of thing comes from, is that type of thing of setting boundaries, looking after yourself, not being walked over by anybody. Because I used to be somebody, and to be honest, I still have traits of this. It is a constant thing that I'm working on. But I used to be somebody who, if I kind of felt like I didn't have anything important to say, and it's hard to believe now I've got this podcast, isn't it? That I used to feel like that. It seems like a million years ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. Probably 10 years or a bit more, actually, a bit more than 10 years ago. And I used to, if I got interrupted by somebody when I was talking, I would just not carry on with what I was saying. And I would deem that I was interrupted because what I was saying was not important enough for that person. Yeah. How wrong is that? You may be somebody who does this as well. And you might think, yeah, you should carry on talking. And then when it happens to you, you're like, okay, I'll shut up now. I'm actually somebody now who will say, oh, I'm not finished yet. And I want to say the rest of what I've got planned that wants to come out. But to be fair, I only actually do that with people I'm close to. And if I'm not that close with somebody, if I feel they don't want to hear what I'm saying, I will not push that on them, because that's my thing and my opinion. And I don't believe that we should push our own opinions on other people. I believe that we should be able to have open dialogue and a lot of back and forth. So I don't believe that I should be pushing my opinion onto people. But if I need to talk about something and my partner cuts in on me, I'm like, I need to finish what I'm saying. And then he'll let me. And I'm sure he does that to me and I don't notice. I don't know. But I do feel it's important to get your point across, but I also feel it's important to let other people make up their own minds. So there is a balance in what I'm saying here. And I also find that there's power in listening. So a lot of people open up to me, and I don't know why. I feel like it's to do with this and the fact that I am actually a very good listener, because I'm somebody who needs permission to talk. So I'm one of those people that needs the conversation to lapse, there to be a gap enough for me to talk. And often I find myself getting surrounded by people, not surrounded, but I will often connect with people who just talk at me and they don't let me speak. It's really funny. And then it burns out after a while, and then I just don't seem to meet up with them as often, because it's really hard for a lot of people to let space be in the conversation for the conversation to then change or to talk about something different. And it's not a criticism to anybody else. And again, I'm not about to tell people how they should be, because I don't believe in that. But there's this really interesting thing. So if you feel like you are somebody who talks a lot, then I would urge you to hold space in the conversation for somebody else to talk. Do not feel that you have to fill that gap. Actually allow and see. If you're around somebody who you find is a really good listener and they always listen to you, I would challenge you to take a step back during conversation and see what happens. Just watch. Because you might find that person who's a really good listener is a really good listener, and they're taking on what you're saying, but actually they might have something they want to say, and maybe they're not getting a chance. So just something for you to think about there. And also, if you're on the other side, if you are somebody who is like how I used to be, then maybe don't be afraid to say, I want to speak now, or can I talk to you about this? Can I explain something to you? And actually open up the space to have that as well. It doesn't just come from the other person letting you have space. Sometimes you have to try and gain that as well. It's a two-way street. Everybody is involved here, not just one side. And I do find that we've been taught to not use our voice. It is dangerous to use our voice. In a previous episode, I talked about the witch burning and the grassing up of your neighbor. Maybe this is still carried forward with us today. Shaming around going against the narrative, asking a question and things like this. It is very common. We have grown up with such shaming, and it is still going on today. And to be honest, it really became a red flag to me around 2020, 2021. You know what I'm talking about. It became a red flag to me there. It's sort of like it's always been there in my life, but I noticed it and I was like, oh God, this is not how humanity should be. We should be kind to each other. And if somebody wants to ask a question, they should not be demonized for it. They should be allowed to ask a question. And if there isn't an answer, then that brings up more questions. But I do find that when we are shamed, it makes us go quiet. But when you start to see it as a red flag, it will make you go louder. So, one of the big shaming, if I mention to you now that I believe the earth is flat, what does that do to your psyche? Interesting, isn't it? Because I too had the same shaming. Now, I'm not saying I believe the earth is flat, but I don't know if it's round. That's all I can say. I don't know. And I said this to somebody because she was having a go at, not at me, but about somebody else that she works with, and saying, oh, and he believes the earth is flat as well. And I said, well, I don't know if I believe the earth is round. She just looked at me like, I want to say so much to you right now, but I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm going to move on. And it's really interesting because I don't go around voicing my opinion. And now a lot of people know some stuff. I don't go around voicing my opinion because it's not my place. It's not my place. And if I did go around and say this a bit more publicly, that I'm not sure, I don't know that the earth is a globe. Oh, I don't know if the sun is actually as far away as they think. Then people are going to start shaming me, and you might be feeling that towards me now. And if you do, I urge you to look into this. I've spent the last 2-3 years looking into this quite a lot. I've looked into a hell of a lot of things. Oh my God. If you go down the rabbit hole with this, trust me, you ain't getting out that rabbit hole ever. You're in it with me for good. It's fascinating. It is fascinating, the information that is out there, but also the shaming. And I did wonder whether to actually put this on the podcast today, because I know some people might have just switched off by now. And they might not be carrying on listening. And this podcast isn't about me trying to give you that opinion and what I found out and things like that, or what I've researched. It's not about that. I'm talking about the shaming aspect, and how are you feeling towards me right now? And this, if you are feeling anything different towards me, or you can remember that feeling, if you've gone down this rabbit hole and you remember feeling triggered by it before, this is huge. The shaming we have been brought up with. Through school. I must have learned that through school. The shaming around that. And this is what I mean. This is why we do not speak out. This is why in 2020 we did what we were told, and we did not go against the narrative and just open up our businesses. This is why this happened. Yeah. So this is a big deal. However you choose to fathom it, it is a big deal. I also feel like there's a lot of separation, and there's so many things that can create separation, and they get pushed as things that are like deemed as good. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they're not good, but what I'm saying is they create separation. So things like the separation with genders, transgender as well. The separation is huge. We are losing the fact that we are all humans. I'm not saying that we are all exactly the same, we're all unique, but we are all together. Yeah? This is a big topic. And things like religion separates. It separates us. But we're not separate. I mean, the Bible is the same for so many different religions. And it's like, well, if we're all worshipping the same God, then how and why should we be demonized for not being your religion and I'm this religion? See what I mean? This is huge. And it's actually very hard to put this stuff out in the world because you're so demonized for it. And it shouldn't be that way. I respect people, and it's a bit like when I used to work in an office. I remember I was making a cup of tea once, and there was somebody around there who I'd never met before, and I was like, oh, hello, and I was just chatting to them. Yeah. And then when I went and sat back down, people were around me, and they were going, my colleagues were going, do you know who that was? Oh my God, do you know who that was? And I'm like, no, I just said hello. And they were like, what else did you say? I'm like, what do you mean, what else did I say? Why? And they were like, that's the owner of the business. And I'm like, okay. They're like, what did you say? What did he say to you? And I'm like, I don't know. I was just saying, hello, how are you? And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes. Like, what are you talking about? And I was just chatting. It didn't make any difference who that person was. I was just treating them with the same respect that I would want them to treat me with. And that really is how we need to lead in the world, is to treat each other with that type of respect, not to separate ourselves, not to shame each other, not to shame somebody if they think different to you. If somebody has a different opinion to you, that's fine. What's not fine if they refuse to be friends with you because you have a different opinion. We are allowed to be different. Because if everybody was the same, that would be such a boring world. We'd never get anywhere. So we need to be able to accept each other. If somebody doesn't believe in God, but you do, that's down to them and that's down to you. You can still be friends. Yeah? So it's so important that we come together as humanity. And I kind of feel I get a red flag when people or when a person or an authority are trying to take control over your body. I feel like that's a red flag. When someone starts telling you, you need to do this, you need to do that, I'm like, no. I feel like body autonomy, the sovereignty over our own rights is so important. If you know what food you need to eat, for example, to make your body happy, that is your choice. Nobody else should tell you what you should or shouldn't do in that sense. This is where the power of our voice is so important. Oh my gosh, I can't get across how important this is. But things to do to find your voice, because like I said at the beginning, in a lot of the circles, literally circles as well, but a lot of the circles I'm in and a lot of the events and things I go to, you know, I love yoga. I love going to yoga workshops. I love going inward to my own psyche. I love going to circle meditations and things like that. Not all the time, but some of the time, whilst a lot of the time we share how we feel, sometimes that can be really hard in the sense of when you do things like meditation or you do a yoga class, it's beautiful and it can be very relaxing, very healing. But when you connect to yourself, sometimes it can be very hard to portray yourself outward. So this is where the power of your voice comes in. And it isn't just a case of opening your mouth and sharing. Sometimes it's a case of almost like exercising your voice. It's a bit like you get better at dancing if you just move your body freely and just don't really care what it looks like. You actually get better at moving. And it's the same for your voice. It's almost like making noises and stuff will make your voice bigger. So one of the things that can make your voice bigger is chanting. Oh my God, because that's how I found the power of my voice. It was nearly a year ago now. Oh, it was just over a year ago. Because I went to this yoga workshop, didn't realize they were going to have chanting there. Hadn't really done much of it before, not for a long stint. And we did 2 lots of 15 minutes of chanting. And there was a harmonium as well. And there was something that happened to me that day. And obviously the podcast has been born since then. There's something that happened to me that day that stuck with me. That feeling, that vibration that raised up in my body through chanting was so powerful. And we were chanting Sanskrit chants and being led through it, and it was just so amazing. About 30 people in this room all doing it, and it was just out of this world. That really changed my voice, and I thought, I need more of this. So I started doing more myself. And you don't need anything to chant. You could just use your voice. You don't need anything. But I did go and buy a Shruti box because that did do something to me. Singing. Be careful what lyrics you sing. Try and sing stuff that's uplifting. Maybe even play around with creating your own little melodies and stuff as well. You don't need to write them down and keep them. Don't put the pressure on yourself if you don't want to. But maybe you do want to. Who knows? A year ago, I would never have said I was a singer. And yet, the power of my voice now, I do sing. And I'm like, whoa, is that actually me? And I've had comments on my singing voice. And people have said, was that you singing at that point? And I went, yes. And they were like, oh my God, that was amazing. I went, thanks, it was. Like, it surprised me too. So singing is great. With music, without music, it doesn't matter. But try and sing stuff that really is uplifting and connective, because there's a lot that can be said about derogative lyrics. And don't get me wrong, I'm a pole dancer. I know all about derogatory lyrics. I love them. I used to love them. I don't in the same way anymore. Something has changed. It's definitely changed. I love Marilyn Manson, but Marilyn Manson isn't quite the same anymore in my eyes. So, yeah, I know what it's like to sing these sort of lyrics, and I know the power they have, and I'm not sure I want to give them that power. Shouting. Try not to scare everybody or your pets or your children, but shouting is really good. particularly if you know that there's a place you could go to, like Salisbury Plains around here is really good. You can go there and you can scream and you just get it out of your system. But it's that exercise in your voice, and that is together a big release of emotion as well. So if you have that urge that you need to shout, then do it. You know when they say scream into a pillow? Do it. Like I say, just try not to scare anybody in the meantime, but that really will help your voice. And also the power of humming. So when you hum, some people have told me that their children hum a lot, and they said it can be quite annoying, but actually when you look into the power of humming, you actually find it actually regulates your nervous system. And there are chants in yoga, which is the humming bee breath, and that is the same thing. It's said to regulate your nervous system. It helps you to ground. Yeah. So this sort of thing is really important. So if your kids are humming, or you got a friend that just hums quite a lot, that's good. Let them. And maybe try it too and see how it makes you feel. Because sometimes it can bring you into a place of concentration as well, because it can kind of drown out outside noise. So again, that is very, very good. And there's other things. So not necessarily using voice, but I kind of find sometimes when you go to certain places and you feel a connection to the land, or you feel quite grounded when you're there, maybe you feel like, oh, have I been here before in another life? That type of thing can reignite our voice inside us. You might know where those places are, you might not. For me, one of those big places is Wales. I don't know why. Maybe I've been there before in a previous life, but ever since I first went to Wales, I felt this deep connection to the land and to myself. So again, that sort of thing can help you find your way with all of this. And I also find, whilst they're not normally, you don't normally use a lot of sound, voice sound, but if you go for a sound journey, a sound bath, they can be very good as well for igniting the rawness in you. For me personally, I find earthly drumming, shamanic drumming incredibly powerful. And I also find the gongs very powerful. They take me to a place, maybe, I don't know, years past, or maybe before I was born. I can't tell you exactly where they take me, but they take me somewhere. And they just get me closer to this deeper knowing of who I am and why I'm here. So those sort of things, whilst they're not using your voice, anything that to connect you to yourself, it is good. And I firmly believe in doing this type of thing sober is important. And I'm including plant medicine there, to do it sober first. If you decide to go down the route of plant medicines at a later date, that is down to you. But to actually go on this type of journey as your raw self, I feel like is so important. And you might think, oh, I can't sing unless I've had a drink. Try it. Try without, because it changes things. Because drink does change how we show up. You might think it makes you more relaxed, but it does more things to you that you don't need. You don't need. It's surprising, like I said, that chanting that I did a year ago, honestly, I have never felt so high. I didn't even know that was a possible feeling without taking anything. Oh my God, it was incredible. So to know that there's this much power inside of us is it's a game changer. It is a game changer. And I'm going to leave you with something to think about now. A little bit esoteric here. Your chakras, yeah? 7 of them. Is that correct? The reason why I ask this is because if you look at the picture of the chakras, they are all evenly spaced apart until you get from the throat to the third eye. There's a big gap. Could there have once upon a time been another chakra for your chin? interesting when you start to think about that, particularly when you start to think of things like keeping your head down, bowing your chin when you meet royalty and things like that, bringing you down. Chin up, you'll feel better. Could that be somehow linked in to, we're going back thousands of years probably. Could this be linked in to bringing humans down and to not recognize our own power? I'm going to leave you with that. Enjoy that, because it's a big one to think about. It's a big one to think about. But maybe in your meditations and things, when you do your chakra work, maybe add in the chin chakra. What have you got to lose? But think about what you've got to gain. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We did unpack a hell of a lot there, and just know that I appreciate you sharing this journey and this quest through life with me. Remember, as always, to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.